an item that you have to add to, say, this folder or any of the other items that you may be using for CG, usually it'll be an item that you have to download out of PCO. It's either going to come from the attachments section that's here. Sometimes it gets added there, or it'll be under message elements such as right here. It'll be an image, it'll say like image, or a text file, or something has been added to these attachments, and you will download it to the computer.
It'll usually go in the downloads folder. If you can go to
Yeah.
Macintosh HD.
Yeah, you can go to Macintosh HD. It usually shows up in the downloads folder. It'll be the top file because it'll be the most recent one. You can drag and drop it. I've got an item here as an example, so if I need to add it here, I can just drag it in here. You see this little blue line that showed up? That's where it's going to place. It's going to place in between these two files. You don't want to put it over a file because it'll override it. But if I do this, because it's been in there before, it's now shown up in there. If it's a temporary item, used only for that particular service, you can remove it later by deleting it, and it's gone. So I just want to show that just in case you end up getting a file that you weren't expecting last minute. So that's the assets section. Usually this does not change. The title bars are usually changed once a year, unless there has to be a modification to someone's name. So these should be pretty consistent. These items change every so often, just depending on the series or artwork we're using for a series. The next part would be sermon. So you would create another file here.
Do you create a new assets file underneath each new week?
No, it's the same one.
You just drag it from week to week?
Yeah, drag it from week to week because of the consistency with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these barely change,
Okay.
and we want to make sure that servant leaders are constantly
Perfect.
using the same
So
item.
drag it from the week before.
Yep. So the next item I would create, let's see, let's hit plus, would be the worship file. Worship.
Oh no,
Or,
message.
Or sermon, we call it sermon, I'm sorry. Sermon, all right, so the sermon file is actually blank right now. It's just showing this because that was the last thing I clicked on. So usually there are elements that you can get from the last sermon, depending on if it's a same speaker. A good example is Pastor Keith. He's usually speaking the bulk of these messages right now. So one of the items that we would want to transfer over would be his bug. It's got his information on it. Decorations. Since these are consistent, they're not going to change, obviously. So we go back down to sermon. We need a new document. Now the new document is going to go in this white space down here. There's nothing here on the sermon right now. So this will be 2018. 04, 21, 22, just like what we did with the main folder. I'm dating it. Pillar, can't spell pillars.
Hey.
Oh, hello. Anyways, I'll just say
Alright.
service with, and then pastor for example purposes. So it'd be whatever the service name is with pastor, X. So it'd be date, name of the service, and with what pastor. You'll click new. This creates the file. Oh, I got an invalid character in there, so I think it's a slash. It's fine. New. It will show up in the library listing right here. You can drag and drop it right into it, or you can look it up if for some reason it didn't show up, or you clicked on something. 04, 1, 22. There it is, showed up. So this is where you'll start putting in your elements for this service. Now, like I said, you can usually grab certain items from the previous service. You don't want to drag them out, you want to copy them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my mouse icon right here. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, and I'm going to highlight these guys here. And now I can either copy them with the drop down here, which I'm going to do, sermon. Now I hit paste. And now these elements have been transferred to this service. So this is sort of the start of building a new sermon. Now, this is usually all we can get away with when it comes to copying and pasting, because every service is different, because every message is different. And this is where we're going to get into the notes in PCO. So in PCO, there's usually a section that says message, and it's going to have whoever's speaking that message. This particular weekend was Pastor Keith. There's a little icon here, and what we're looking for is, I believe it's this one here. It's going to say document.
They labeled it wrong this weekend.
Okay, that's what threw me off. Now, in your browser, it's this little drop-down arrow right here. It showed up here. And you can hit the little magnifying thing. Microsoft Word takes a minute. Okay, so these are going to be your notes for this particular service right here. We're going to go ahead and blow this up all the way. So there's a couple different color codings that go on in Pastor Keith's notes or whoever's speaking. Black here usually indicates a point that will need to be on its own slide. This would be point 1 of this particular message, so we would make a slide for this message, for this point. Oops. Command Z. Okay, so let's say if I got to do that. So I'm going to go to the editor here. I'm going to add a slide here.
You go to editor up top in the orange
Oh
box.
yeah, sorry,
That's okay.
too fast. So you would go to editor. In this case, I'm just going to copy this last slide here. Oh yeah, it's got the. I'm sorry. Hold on a second, guys. Paste. All right. I gotta edit this thing here. It's not letting me remove the element. Okay. Somebody,
You can hit undo again and then put that back.
yeah, go ahead and cut real quick.